Welcome back to another edition of This Month at the TNM. Well, we survived 2022. It's a new year and it looks like it's going to be a really good one for the TNM. 2 years ago, in 2021, we moved the ball way down the field. We got a Texas bill filed with the legislature, the Texas Independence Referendum Act. And last year, we ended up with not just one, but two planks in the Republican Party of Texas platform. This room behind me is about to get really busy. Depending on when you're watching this, the 2023 legislative session is either about to start or has already started. The official session runs from January 10th through May 29th. Pre-filing's already been underway, and there's a lot of work done already in preparation for the new session. This session will likely be supporting more than one bill. We'll keep you posted as they take shape and get into more of a final form as to which ones to keep an eye on. Since the upcoming session is going to be a big part of what occupies us this year, let's talk about the process of getting a bill filed and what it takes to move it through the maze that is the legislative quagmire. We already have a lot of experience with this process since we were up to our elbows in it during the last session in 2021. The bill is the most common type of legislative document and is the only way for a law to be enacted, amended, or repealed. A legislator has to be the one to introduce a bill into the legislative process, but the idea for a bill can come from someone other than the legislator. The text of a bill can come from the legislator or from an outside party like the TNM. The Texas Legislative Council, or Leg Council, is tasked with making sure the text of the bill is legal and doesn't conflict with any existing laws or the Texas Constitution. We found them to be less than helpful in some cases and very helpful in others. They take the draft of the proposed legislation and run it through a series of checks and come up with something that can actually be filed. Then the bill is ready to be filed by a legislator and it is assigned a number. You'll notice that in addition to the author of the bill, there are co-authors that can be designated. This is very important and we'll talk more about that in a bit. There can also be co-sponsors on a bill. Once the session is in session, the bill will go to committee. These committees develop and assess legislation. One of the most crucial of these is the Calendars Committee. This is the committee that has the power to determine if the bill will ever even see the light of day. Many great pieces of legislation have been essentially killed before even being born, kind of like an abortion, huh? If the bill is put on the legislative calendar, it's then assigned to another committee, such as the State Affairs Committee. These committees will usually have hearings to gather public input on the proposed legislation. This is a very important phase and one where you can play a vital part. In the normal world, hearings are held at the Capitol and citizens such as yourselves show up, hopefully in great numbers, to make your voices heard. The more people who show up in support of legislation, the harder it becomes for legislators to ignore the bill and pretend it's not important. Since House Bill 1359 got frozen out in committee, we ended up being forced to create our own virtual hearings on HB 1359. Your organization asked for, and y'all came through with, a bunch of short testimonial videos voicing how you felt about the legislation and how important it was to get it passed. Remember that you don't have to go to Austin to have face-to-face with your legislator. They spend much of their time back in their home districts. Their doors should always be open to their constituents, and this is an easy way to meet and talk with them. Once the bill has passed the committee, it's scheduled to go to the floor of the House for reading and discussion. If it's passed at this point, it goes to the Senate and winds its way through their process. If they make any changes to it, there has to be reconciliation process to amend the bill until both chambers agree on it. By the way, there's a great course at the TNM Academy online that goes into this entire process from the infancy of the idea all the way through the hoops that have to be jumped through to take the idea all the way to the governor's desk. You can find this course on the TNM website at tnm.me/courses/how-a-bill-becomes-law. Now, about those co-authors we mentioned earlier. The more co-authors a bill has, the more attention has to be paid to it. If there are a slew of co-authors listed on a bill, like having a lot of people testify at hearings on the bill, it makes it harder to dismiss it as unimportant. How do we get co-authors to sign on to the bill? Well, that's where having a great number of supporters of the TNM come in, and where you come in. We all need to do whatever we can to increase this number. The bigger this number is, the bigger our clout is with members of the legislature. We know many legislators and their staff check this number regularly. There is strength in numbers. Now, what are the best strategies for growing the number of supporter IDs for the organization? There are many outreach activities across the state every week. These activities put the TNM out in front of the general public. They're great ways to both educate the public on the subject of Texas independence, as well as a perfect venue to register more supporters. If you can't find one of these activities in your area, organize one. Why are these SIDs so important? The more supporters we have, the more we can organize to lobby our representatives to actually represent us. Remember when we were talking about legislators trying to minimize the support there is for independence? In the past, we've caught them trying to deny the number of calls and emails they get. That's why it's important that we document any interaction we have with our legislators. Interacting with our representatives, both House and Senate, is crucial to accomplishing our goal. How you have these interactions is also crucial. There's a right way and a wrong way. A while back we made a video on how to effectively advocate for Texas independence. Since this is going to be a big part of our new year, let's take a look at it for some tips on doing it right. History is being made. A bill has been filed that, if passed, would allow us to decide if things should just continue going the way they are, or if we want Texans to be the ones to determine our own future. Here are some guidelines for upping your game to be more effective at personally advocating to your representatives for a vote on Texas independence. Every member of the Texas House represents roughly 167,000 Texans, and every member of the Texas Senate represents about 806,000 Texans. Each of these members weighs every piece of legislation against their own personal goals and passions and how much support they perceive exists among their constituents. That's you. No matter which side of the issues your elected officials usually stand, you should be able to find common ground. That starts with building relationships with them. They need to see you as a person rather than just another constituent wearing them out over a specific issue. One courteous and respectful interaction is worth more than 1,000 angry phone calls. It's not just your elected representatives that you need to develop relationships with. You'll get much further, much faster if you develop relationships with members of their staff. For all of these reps, their staff served as gatekeepers. If you cross one or more key members of their staff, you're going to end up getting stopped dead in your tracks. However, a friend on their staff can grease the wheels for you and give you great insights into your representatives, their boss. This could include issues for which the representative is extremely passionate that can be addressed by Texit, as well as insights into specific concerns that they may have about a vote on independence. While many are motivated by a rigid set of principles, at the end of the day, all state-level elected officials are concerned about two things: enough votes to win re-election and enough money to fend off any challenges in the next election. One of the first things your legislators will do when you contact them is to check your information against two databases, the voter database and their donor database. They want to know if you voted in the general election, and if you voted in the primary election and for which party, and did you donate any money to their campaign. None of this information is secret. It's all a matter of public record. If you didn't vote in the general election, or didn't vote in the primaries, or voted in the primary for the party which they're not a member, or didn't donate to them or anyone, just understand that they will find out. Be prepared to deal with any of these issues by heading it off at the pass. You can say something like, "Even though we're in different parties, I'm sure we both share some concerns about our district and state." Or, "I've never been motivated to give money to a candidate's campaign because I just haven't found a candidate that shares my views on Texas independence." If you don't know who your state senator or state representative is, you can use the Find Your Rep tool here at https://tnm.me/legislature. Texit is a very simple solution to a massive number of complex problems that face Texans. The challenge with elected officials is that they often seek solutions that are as complex as the problems that they claim to want to address. Because of this focus on complexity, a referendum on Texas independence and what follows will cause them to have a massive number of questions and objections. That means that, first of all, you need to be armed with all the facts. Prepare by consuming as much about the issue as you possibly can. The TNM's Texit section on our website is a great resource for this. Another great resource is the book Texit: Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. It'll arm you with answers and their context for nearly every conceivable argument or obstacle that they can throw in your way. At a minimum, you should be able to tell your legislator how being in the Union is harmful to Texans, how Texas independence will benefit Texans, and the amount of support in Texas for a vote on the issue. While this takes care of the rational arguments for Texas independence, you also need to be prepared to connect on an emotional level. You should be prepared to tell them why you personally support a vote on independence. This means that you need to be ready to tell your story. Telling your story allows others to get you, to experience the values that make you want to advocate for Texas independence. The key is to focus on choice points, moments when your values counted in choices you made in response to challenge or uncertainty. When did you first care about being heard on your belief that Texas would be better off as an independent nation? Why? When did you feel you had to take action? Why did you feel you could? What were the circumstances? Your story can be a powerful tool in communicating with your elected representatives by allowing them to see something of yourself, not your deepest secrets, but the key moments that motivated you personally to support Texas independence. Here's the key point about your story. You should be able to tell your story in less than 3 minutes. Craft it and even practice it with friends and family. Be sure to thoroughly read the proposed legislation and understand what it does. Here are the key points. The actions in the bill are protected by the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. It is only calling for the issue of independence to be put before Texas voters. It is not a declaration of independence. It provides a statutory framework in Texas law that allows this process to happen. It provides safeguards to protect the integrity of the vote through restrictions on campaign spending for this referendum alone. In the event of a yes vote, it provides guidance for elected officials for the next steps of the process.
The bill is ready to file as is, without any additional work having to be done by the Texas Legislative Council. This is important because the Leg Council can, and has, been a roadblock to efforts to file this bill in the past. In its current format, the bill can be directly filed. This makes the legislators' jobs much easier. How you interact with your representatives is just as important as what you say and how you say it. Legislators have a secret hierarchy that helps them evaluate the level of support for an issue. They weigh different methods of interaction to figure out the level of support there is for a particular issue in their district. The more personal the method of interaction, the more support the interaction represents. In order from the most impact to the least impact. Personal visits. Few constituents take the time to actually visit their representatives. If an issue is important enough for you to visit their office, in their minds, the importance is shared by a large number of constituents who couldn't show up in person. Handwritten letters. Very few people actually sit down and write letters anymore. Not to mention exerting the extra effort of putting it in an envelope, buying a stamp, and putting it in the mailbox. It's so rare that when legislators get handwritten letters, you can be sure they'll get read, and it will be given extra attention. Phone calls. Using the telephone to contact legislators is the old standby. When all else fails, pick up the phone and speak your piece. While phone calls are low on the hierarchy, when enough constituents call, they can make a difference. This is especially the case if they are made by the same constituent on a consistent basis, daily or weekly. Emails. This is the absolute worst way to interact with your representatives. Legislators get thousands of emails during the normal course of a legislative session. Not only will your email get buried, but with one click, all future emails from you can end up in their spam folder. All of these tactics can help you be more effective, but there is one thing that will guarantee your success. Never give up. No matter how persistent you are, no matter how articulate you are, no matter how right you are, one or both of your representatives may be under the impression that they can just outlast you. If they tell you no enough times, you may get discouraged and just go away. Don't fall for it. You may never get either of your representatives to support this legislation. Great! They have to get reelected, so replace them with someone who will. You've just got to outlast them and possibly every one of their successors until we get and win a vote on independence. The TNM can help. There's no doubt that the growth of the Texas nationalist movement directly impacts the ability to persuade these representatives. Our members have the opportunity to participate in coordinated actions that directly advance the cause of Texas independence. Becoming a member of the TNM is a great way to connect with others who are advocating for a vote on independence and to be a part of the larger movement for independence. You can find out more at tnm.me.
As you can see, it's not that difficult to keep in touch with your legislators. Your representatives are there in Austin to serve you, and it's up to you to give them the direction on just how you want to be represented. Just remember, politeness goes a long way, even with those who may not be in agreement with Texas. You never know when they could see the light and realize that the people actually do have the right to vote on this issue. You don't want to have alienated them in the meantime. We have a sheet of talking points that'll help you prepare for your contact. This includes information on finding out where they stand on the issue, as well as points to bring up to educate them on what the Texas Constitution actually says about the form of government and who has the power to reform it as necessary. Spoiler alert, it's the people. This session, we need to make it clear that the people have the right to vote on this issue, and it's up to them to help make this happen, either by signing on as co-authors to the bill or in the very least, helping to be sure there are hearings so that public testimony can be given. This new year we're just starting is going to be pivotal for our cause, and we need to be sure this session hears our voices loud and clear. If the people in this year's session don't help the people they're supposed to be representing, they need to be gently reminded that next year is an election year. If we don't get a referendum on Texas this year, then we will have a referendum on them next year. Your organization has several tools to help you with this task. The TNM website has a page that will let you know who your senator and representative are, complete with full contact details. It'll also show whether they supported House Bill 1359 in the last session. We're also working on tools to help you work with your legislators this session, such as reporting contacts and interactions. As you can see on the page for my rep, there is a section where you can report an interaction. There are drop-downs that help you categorize things like the type of interaction, as well as which of our campaigns the contact was for. If you hadn't had a response to your interaction yet, you can note this in the Tell Us About Your Interactions section of this tool. This helps us track which legislators have been contacted and how they reacted to the interactions. You'll get more details as more tools become available. Thanks for joining us as we kick off a new year with the Texas Nationalist Movement. I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we all move forward in 2023. As Daniel likes to say, let's go win.